good start. It may not last.
It did just about last. About 180 people watched and listened as they were introduced to the Telereal Trillium team, a group of people from a diverse set of companies with, we were assured, the expertise to deliver a solution for Y3. Most lived locally and knew Wye, including Damien Maloney, Telereal Trillium's sole representative.
As I said, the village is very special. I know the village well, living locally, for a number of high-quality buildings here and a range of other buildings which we see opportunities to bring back into economic use over there. As a private company, we are able to take a long-term view. We envisage retaining ownership on much of a site over the longer term, maybe 10, 15 years.
10 to 15 years did not seem to be very long-term at all, given the age of many of the buildings Damien was talking about. But no matter. What exactly had Telereal Trillium bought? We were shown a map with rather indistinct red lines, and Damien explained some plans that were already underway.
The first part of it at the school, we've agreed a long-term lease with the school on there, which hopefully will complete shortly. And our first task will be to look at bringing back some of the vacant buildings to make beneficial use of them again.
Clearly, this is a company that wants to get on with things, and perhaps understandably, all the speakers were keen to distance themselves from the previous owners.
Perhaps the first thing I should say about the neighbourhood plan and where we go from here is that Imperial's plan is in the waste paper basket. We're starting afresh.
Slight concern there that David Jarman was talking about both the neighbourhood plan and the Imperial master plan in the same breath. Could it be that they were both in the waste paper basket? We'll come back to that later. For now, let's just focus on his two main objections to Wye's neighbourhood plan. First, there was the issue of how many houses could be built on Y3.
We are not putting forward a figure. We feel that this should emerge naturally through the process of preparation of the master plan for Wye. It involves looking at the best uses for existing buildings, exactly how different areas of land might be developed. Things like, for example, it's always the case in planning that it's simplistic to focus on numbers. If, for example, you were to say Wye needs more family homes, then they occupy more land and you have smaller numbers of homes than if you had higher density, either very small houses or apartments, for example. Those are things that we think will emerge through the process of preparing a master plan and where we don't want to impose a view at this stage.
And the second concerned the former ADAST buildings, the derelict site on Ollantey Road, which the community had earmarked for a possible solar farm in the neighbourhood plan, it being well outside the boundary of the 400-metre envelope agreed by the community.
What can you say? They're in a poor condition at the moment. They're clearly, I think, a hazard, frankly. When I visited them a couple of months ago, we're able to walk freely into the school from there, for example. That doesn't seem to us to be good. So one way or another, a future use has to be found for those.
No surprise that the future use Telereal Trillium has in mind is housing. Other members of the team displayed their credentials. They all assured the community that they were well aware of the value of the buildings that they were going to be working on, and they told us how they were going to keep in touch. And then it was over to the village. TT were asked a number of important questions. Had they considered the idea of returning the site to a university? Had they thought of providing a home for Syrian refugees? Why were they putting the Imperial Master Plan in the bin when that too had been completed by a set of professionals? And, most importantly, why were they suggesting more consultation when we've all just been through the neighbourhood plan process? The Borough Councillor Noel Avendon summed up the views of the room.
They've talked about more or less putting the Imperial Master Plan in the bin. I just get that sort of said impression that they feel pretty much the same about our neighbourhood plan. I think really what people in this room are asking, it's been said very eloquently by some others, is really all this consultation, we have done this. It is written in the neighbourhood plan. A framework for Wye has been produced. And I think the feeling in the room really is that the new owners of the college really should be working within the framework of the neighbourhood plan that has already been created and providing us with an excellently designed, brilliant solution for those buildings and that land, but do it within the neighbourhood plan that Wye have already created.
All that remained was for Telereal Trillium to assure us that the neighbourhood plan was most definitely not in the bin, that they'd keep the village informed, and that they'd hope to deliver the master plan in the next 6 to 12 months. And then it was over to the chair of the parish council to give the village a pat on the back.
I was really impressed by the quality of the questions that were asked this evening, and particularly those which related to what the neighbourhood plan is. It is your plan. It is pretty much what everybody came together and said, and I'm very anxious that it's seen as that by Telereal Trillium, and I'm very grateful for you making those points this evening so strongly.
The future was, he assured everyone, very much in our own hands.
It is your decision in the end whether to support it, because there will be a referendum, and your vote, as politicians are prone to say, counts. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.